Hello, everybody, and welcome to, I think, an episode many of you have been waiting for. I am your host, Nicholas Snow, and this is the Nicholas Snow Show, one of many series on PromoHomo.TV, all at the website PromoHomo.TV, which expanded into a full-fledged online broadcast network in June of 2020. And about 70 episodes later, this is what you are seeing now. And I do appreciate everyone that has supported the expansion of the network. I know that many of you are tuning into my show for the first time because of the subject matter, which is why I just wanted to let you know a little bit about the background of the network. So, this show is about how I transformed my health and well-being for the good. And I want you to know right off the bat that if you want to endeavor and to lose weight or get healthy or change up your routine, please do so by consulting your medical provider first. This this program should be construed as information and entertainment, but not personal advice directed to you. That is something that you should always undergo in a conversation with your doctor. Even though I do have a medical professional on the show with me who's been really my partner for the last 2 years. I hope you're not discouraged when I say 2 years, because it's been the 2 years that has transformed my life, really. And I'm going to get into that. My guest coming up is Liz Stankis, registered dietitian, and she's a Coachella Valley native, a mom of 2 toddler girls, and a lover of all things food and nutrition related. As a registered dietitian, she helps others, and she has helped me navigate the constantly changing and ever-confusing world of nutrition by simplifying complex messages into real-world application through thoughtful meal planning and nutrition. While she specializes in kidney disease, her general nutrition and knowledge and her focus on well-being care are at the core of her knowledge, and they drive her passion to educate others. I wasn't starting to see her because of a diabetes or any sort of kidney issue. And the way that I found her was I was referred to her by my insurance provider. For those of you who are wondering, my insurance provider is the Inland Empire Healthcare Plan. But your insurance provider may offer you access to a nutritionist. So that's what I wanted to share with you at the top of the show. Liz is coming up in just a few minutes, but I want to thank for their support of my show, DAP Health. I'm living powerfully with HIV, and I've been a client of DAP now for about a decade. They serve people who live in Riverside County. They're located in Palm Springs. And the bulk of, over half of their clientele now are not people living with HIV. They're now a mainstream medical provider, and they believe that everybody deserves health care, and I'm so grateful for their support. I also want to thank for their support 849 Restaurant and Lounge, and you're going to see some of their food highlighted in the show this today. Now, this is not advertorial. No one, well, 849 does support me, but they haven't paid to have photos of their food in my show today. Let me just put it that way. The bulk of this show is all editorial. So I've also been authorized to tell you to save the date for Palm Springs Pride. We're far enough along in the pandemic to know that we can have some sort of real-world Pride celebration. As the official broadcaster of Palm Springs Pride, I'm authorized to tell you that. And generally, even though there's a whole week of activities, even more, the bulk of the major activities will generally happen at the end of that week. And in this case, in 2021, it's November 5th through the 7th. If you're living in the Coachella Valley and you are lonely and isolated and wanting more connection to community, I invite you to check out the LGBT Community Center of the Desert at thecentercv.org. They're just a vital organization, and I'm proud to support them. And PromoHomo.TV merch is now on Amazon. If you send me a selfie with you and the merch, uh, and with your permission, I'll promote it on screen. Now, beginning in June, I'm doing a limited series on PromoHomo.TV that will go through December 1st or around that date, World AIDS Day, focusing on my Living Powerfully with HIV memoir, Life Positive, A Journey to the Center of My Heart. So if you want to follow along with that book study, by all means, please feel free to do so. Check out the book. In the book, I write about the creation of a music video campaign called The Power to Be Strong to promote HIV testing and safer sex. The YouTube video is subtitled in 21 languages. It's an English language video. Or you can ask your smart speaker to play the song. I'm going to get very promo homo on you. I'm an actor. So if you are in casting and you're looking to hire an actor and I might be appropriate for the role, or if you need a host or a personality, please check me out. And for their support of my show, and some of you actually have supported me this way, I want to thank the PromoHomo.TV superstars, people that become superstars by subscribing to the network for as little as $3 a month. Get a listing and a link at PromoHomo.TV, and the most recent superstars are featured just like this. And I'll be back with my special guest, Liz Stankis, just after this. And it is showtime, and I don't want to be sitting on this set by myself. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome to the stream my friend, my Friday bestie, as we call each other, Liz Stankis. Hi, Liz.
Hi, Nick. So glad to be here.
I'm so happy that you have joined me and that we've been on a 2-year journey. So first of all, thank you for your support.
Oh, yeah. My pleasure. Are you kidding me?
I didn't endeavor to be one of your star clients, but I think I might have become one.
Oh, yeah. I frequently talk about your success. So, yeah, you are.
Now, 2 years is the approximate period of time we've worked together. But what I know for sure is I think I saw you for the first time, I'm guessing, a couple of months before your maternity leave. Does that sound right?
I believe it was 6 months before my maternity leave is our first very initial in-person appointment. Yeah.
Yes, we were actually working together in person initially through the beginning of the pandemic, and then we went virtual.
Yep.
So without necessarily getting into my own journey right away, I'd like to speak to you about what happens when someone gets referred to you, and what are the reasons that someone would be referred to you.
Yeah, so depending on the insurance, like you mentioned before, I accept a number of insurance plans, but each plan has their very particular coverage. So if it's through IHP, for example, I need a referral requested from your primary care physician. It gets run through their system, and then I get to see it on my end, and then you just wait for me to give you a phone call to schedule that initial appointment. And then from there on, we just develop the plan, the cadence at which we'll do follow-ups, depending on your needs.
And what are some of the reasons that people would seek out a nutritionist? And by the way, you also see private clients.
Yes, yeah, I do see private clients, but I would say the primary reason is for weight loss, but there's a number of reasons why people will see me, as it should be. It could be because your cholesterol is high. It could be because you have some kind of GI issue, like a bloating or something going on in your intestines. It could be for kidney disease. It could be for diabetes management. I actually really love it when a doctor might refer to me when somebody is diagnosed with prediabetes. So let's not even get to the disease state, let's prevent it. So it can be a number of reasons. Really, I would encourage you to just speak to your doctor. If you want to see a dietitian because you want to be healthier, you should have that access.
So I just wanted that general information to go out to the audience, and I'm glad they have it. So it is true, and you can vouch for me, that I have lost approximately 65 pounds in a 2-year period. I haven't been dieting until the last couple of months, very little exercise, no foods have been bad or wrong. No food category has been off limits. And I can't remember what else I was going to add to that, but I basically just created in my life, with your support, a shift in the way that I live. And that is what created the results. And I actually had a private consultation with you earlier today. And one of the things that I mentioned to you then that I want to share with the audience now is that I'm experiencing a lot of joy and a lot of relief, because if you ever see some sort of makeover show on television, people have done something that's been extreme, that or limiting. It's involved significant changes that are often not sustainable and applicable in an ongoing existence in the real world, and often therefore not sustainable. And the reason that I feel such relief is that I'm already into a period which I describe as a soft maintenance, meaning that you and I both agree, along with my doctor, that I can lose some more weight or not. It doesn't matter. And the reason I say it doesn't matter is because I'm now within a zone that is right in the middle of my healthy range based upon objective indicators. And if I stayed in this zone, I would be thrilled with that. So I wanted to kind of describe that overall context, but I'd love for you to address in general why diets don't work, and why extremes like I guess keto is the one of the rages right now, but why does someone in your shoes as a nutritionist think that my approach that I did with you, our approach, is the way to go and those others are not?
Yeah, no, I love that you're bringing this up. There's a number of reasons why diets don't work. I've been doing this for about 10 years. I've seen every single person come through my office having tried all the diets and none of them work. And I would say probably the number one reason is most diets kind of have this timeline or this end date. And throughout the diet part of that program, there's a lot of restriction. There's a lot of statements about, you shouldn't eat this, you can only eat that, eliminate carbs, only have high protein, you can't eat after 8 p.m. There's so many rules that for the long term do not work. They don't stick around. And what it also can create for a lot of people is kind of that defeatist mentality. Well, shoot, I had a piece of cake yesterday. I went off my diet. I'm no longer in ketosis, for example. And well, I'm just going to spiral out of control. And so that whole diet culture, that whole diet mentality, it's not sustainable. It doesn't last forever. And that's why with you, we definitely approached it from an all foods fit, because they can, and you learn the skills behind how they can. So I guess because of that end nature of dieting, that's why they don't work. And I'll just add to this, it is so individualized. There is no one size fits all, right? So just because Atkins worked for this guy over here, it doesn't mean it's going to help you. So it really needs to be individualized.
One of the things, oh, I'm echoing in your computer, but that's okay. I think it's adjusted. So one of the things that I wanted to share is my awareness of my own issues around food. So not recently, but for example, in my 20s, and even in more recent years, some of these behaviors, I've experienced anorexia, bulimia, body dysmorphia, and the bulimia I want to point out in terms of its recent application would be exercise bulimia. So when I had successfully lost weight in recent years, it was because of the intensity of my exercise that I was doing, simply allow myself to eat more. And the reason that it was important to me in the last year to not be dependent upon exercise was because of that particular factor. I wanted to see where I could land in the context of good nutrition, and then add exercise into it to see what sort of transformations could happen after that. But it was also one of the reasons that I didn't want to decide for myself what my goal weight was, what my goal measurements was, what was healthy, what was ideal, what I feel emotionally about circumstances. I wanted to have objectivity. I also want to share for my audience that I have 20 years of sobriety and experience in 12-step programs. Some of my work in 12-step programs has related to food issues, although I don't actively work a 12-step program around food. And also, I think it's really important for me to see a mental health counselor on a regular basis. I'm a huge advocate for that sort of support. And I find that I'm living my best life when I seek that sort of support. I say all this to come down to, I think, what was one of the most important things for me as I approached my work with you is that in and of myself, I am powerless to create the results that I want. That doesn't mean that if you out there relate to powerlessness, that you have to believe in a higher power. Me plus you is a power greater than myself. So in my situation, navigating all of my challenges in life, my higher powers have been you, my doctor, my therapist, being willing to share my journey on social media, and a whole myriad of things. So knowing that I was powerless was important for me because that is how I became powerful with my team. What do you think about the notion of willpower when people think, oh, I'm going to go out and do this, but what they're trying to do is ultimately unsustainable?
Yeah, the willpower thing, I hear that every day. I don't have willpower. It just craves me. It comes over. You bring up such a good point about realizing that you need the help from whatever source it is that you need it. There is the spiritual support that you can go to help you overcome. There are the physical things, right? You can use tools to help you with the support. And then there's the interpersonal. So it all matters as part of that to help support you, because willpower alone, if we all could have all this willpower, there wouldn't be a need for a dietitian or somebody to help with weight loss. So I think it's important to recognize that you can't do it alone. Sometimes you can't, and that's okay. And it's actually a good thing if you can recognize that for yourself. So there is no shame in asking for help, and it can be help in different ways. Like Nick said, it can just be, it could be a medical, anybody really. You just, even go beyond your spouse even, or your partner. You know, sometimes you need just your BFF or a medical professional that becomes your friend to help support you, because willpower alone does not work.
I agree, and nor do absolutes nor black and white thinking for me. All right, so the most important first step for me was knowing that I was powerless. The second, and also the context in which I wanted to create results, and I've talked about my history. Another thing that I wanted to say is that 2 years ago, when I was at my heaviest, it was because not only was I just heavy in general, the way people are because of the American Western lifestyle, I also was struggling with an unknown health issue and was unnecessarily on prednisone for many months at increasing doses as part of the effort to solve the mystery. And prednisone creates a neurohormonal craving for food. So ultimately, I learned that I have a muscle condition that I was born with that is minor in terms of its potential severity. It's called Nemoline Myopathy. I frankly haven't done a deep dive into understanding it because I know that I have the more mild form and it's a little bit above my head. But it basically means that there are that, for example, I've never in my life been able to do a pull-up. I don't have a lot of muscle mass on my body, things along those lines. So there's emotional, spiritual, and physical contributors to the environment in which I, as an individual, was endeavoring to create change. And just figuring out what was wrong with me and getting off the prednisone, even before I ever saw you, I lost some weight. But then it took everything else. So the first step for me was understanding the environment. The second step was realizing my own powerlessness. The third step was putting a team in place. And really, it's the next step. The next step would be also equally important, and that would be the conscious eating aspect, the accountability, the tracking of everything I'm eating at every level, no matter what, period. And that has been very powerful for me as well. Respond to anything that I have said. I've just said a lot, but respond to anything that I've said in a way that you think needs to be reemphasized or expanded upon.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think it's I remember you coming in and having just gotten off of prednisone, and that, you know, even small amounts can definitely cause some unintentional weight gain, and it's fluid and it's just depressing, honestly. So I remember that, and I also remember having a couple iterations of what we were trying out to help you with your weight loss. We didn't immediately go to utilizing the tracking platform at first. And I think that's okay. We were trying out a couple different ways to help support you through, you know, what your needs were. And then we ultimately landed on this, and it was a tool for you that's working, and it continues to work. And I think when you initially will see a medical professional or somebody, they'll already have an idea in their head of what they think will work and be the right thing for you. But I don't think that's always appropriate. And it's something that I really try to remember for myself, that there's a lot of different ways that we can approach interventions. It doesn't have to be just this one way. And I think that that's what we experience at the get-go with you, Nick, especially.
You know, the app that I use to monitor everything is called MyFitnessPal. I use the free version. I don't get paid by them, but I think they should hire me, frankly, because I think I've logged I think I've logged everything I've eaten into MyFitnessPal for like 400 days. And also, another piece of it is I have never added calories to my day based upon exercise.
Right.
I have not planned. I've never done that. I've never said, oh, I'm going to go do this much exercise so I can eat this much more. I stuck with my same goals. And if I happen to get some exercise in, it was just a benefit to me, sort of hidden results.
Yeah, exactly. And it can confuse people. Any app, any food tracking app will want to add those physical activity calories. And it's not always accurate. So that's something that as a practitioner, I actually never recommend. I said, don't even pay attention. Just because the app says you burned 100 calories climbing upstairs, it may or may not be true. So I just really stick to the thing that you can control, and that's what you're putting in your mouth and eating, and making sure that the amount of calories is right for you. And I know that that was really important for me as a practitioner, to make sure you were getting enough still, because a lot of times people go into over restriction and thinking that only 500 calories, that's all I need. Well, that'll screw your body up too. So that was important for your journey.
Well, and what's exciting to me is that I never underate. I always was within the range, even a bit higher than you said would be my healthy minimum.
Mm-hmm.
And what really excites me is that for the last month, I've entered into what I've considered a soft maintenance phase, because my birthday's coming up. I've now been solidly within my goal range for about a month. But I've been in a medically appropriate range for many months. If you look at like the medical lab reports and what my doctor would want to see in those reports, I've been there for months. Now I'm getting into the range where I personally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and objectively feel the best. So that's also quite exciting. I just want to run through some of put the script in front of me. So, planning is very important. And this is really funny. So, that I was wanting to figure out packaged foods that I could buy to make this very simple. And it wasn't that I didn't want to cook. It's just that I really wanted to know precisely what I was eating, because if I didn't know precisely what I was eating, how am I going to create the results that I want?
Yeah.
And what surprised me over time is that I've actually gotten really into food prep, and that the frozen prepared food, it ends up sitting in my freezer, and I'm enjoying all this other stuff. So, but planning is very important. I've talked about conscious eating. I think reasonable trackable goals are also very important. Self-love, being gentle, loving, nurturing with myself at all times. Accountability. What does that mean? Well, that means entering everything no matter what. So my bottom line behavior, I don't care if I'm going to have a 3,500 calorie day, and I've had some of those even recently, is that everything gets entered. Because that way, over time, I know that that might have been what my reality for that day, but perhaps for a 4-week period, I was really in an appropriate zone.
Yep. And it's been so fun to watch you through this process too, because I know a lot of this stuff, right? Like, I know it's better for you and more realistic for you to prepare your own meals, and it's blah blah, but you had to walk through that yourself to realize that. You had to experience that journey to arrive at it yourself, because someone like me telling you that that's the right thing to do doesn't often work. So that for me has been so really, I distinctly remember it was when we first started meeting, you wanted to know about healthy frozen meals that you could
Well, I
buy
think
at
I
the grocery
acknowledged that there
store.
really was an oxymoron to healthy frozen. But what I
Yes,
wanted,
you did.
what I
Yeah,
said, what I said at the time is, what are the healthiest among the frozen meals?
right,
What are the
right.
better choices I could make?
Of course, in my head, I'm like, okay, how do we navigate this? Because uh, it's probably just going to be really limited because those frozen meals can, depending on what you're looking at, this is my brain, right? This is like the confusion that I get as a medical person. You're like, oh, there's sodium in a lot of them. But then there's not enough protein, or he's going to feel really hungry after eating that. Just there's all these different things. So I'm glad we were able to move on from that. And you have become like the aficionado of meal prep.
Well, also, and I'm about to show for my audience the sort of data that is available to me now on a regular basis. But you have advised me, and I've been doing this for most of the time we've been working together, to have targets of 50% carbohydrates, 25% fat, and 25% protein. And I've been really solid in those ranges on a consistent basis. Anything you want to add to that?
I just want to give a shout out to carbs because carbs are often the enemy. And I said, yeah, did you all hear that? Half of his calories were from carbohydrates. So I kind of just wanted to put that in there because I often will get people like, oh, I just know I need to cut this out. I know I shouldn't eat as many carbs. I'm like, oh my goodness. So, but yeah, we did adjust that a little bit. I remember you were kind of in one of your little plateaus and was like, well, let's dive a little bit deeper beyond just the amount of calories and just making sure that you were balanced enough. We upped your protein ever so slightly and decreased your fat a little bit, kind of kept the carbs the same. And then you started to kind of progress, just a small shift in those.
Well, I'm going to actually, I hope that this works because I haven't tried this before. So I'm going to do my best to bring up the data that I'm hoping to go through. And I can do that. So this
Ooh.
is, these are screenshots from my Fitness Pal. And if you see at the bottom, the dates at the bottom of the screen, I am looking at, I'm going to clear my throat. I cleared my throat and then muted myself.
Oh.
So forgive me for that. So this is about a 2-year period where I've lost 65.2 pounds. And I looked, and Tuesday, February 26th, 2019, I was actually a little bit even heavier than that, but that was done at a surgeon's office. And that date was measured in a surgeon's office with my clothes on. So I don't really worry about the difference. So this is 1 week. This is the last week. I put on 0.8 pounds in a week, which doesn't bother me at all because this was a week where I completely increased my willingness to my calorie range. And I decided to practice my gentle maintenance, and I ate lots of foods out, including last night. My birthday is this coming Sunday, Oscar Sunday. I'd like to thank the Academy for my birthday. And so I had a birthday dinner last night, even with a flourless chocolate torte. In the last month, I lost 8 pounds, which was pretty phenomenal success. And throughout this process, I wouldn't have lost weight that quickly, but I was in the home stretch to this episode and I had extra motivation, but still doing everything healthy. But if you look at the last 3 months, I only lost 5.4 pounds over the last 3 months, which means some of those 8 pounds I lost in the last month are a weight that I had gained in the previous month. So there's been some ebb and flow in this process, as there always will be. In the last 6 months, I'm only down 13 pounds. So I literally have been learning to live a new way and maintaining my weight change for significant amounts. So in the last year, according to MyFitnessPal, I've lost 36.3 pounds and I'm down 16.1% of my body weight. My starting weight that was entered into MyFitnessPal ever was, I think, I want to say 5 years ago, I could figure it out by looking at the row at the bottom, was 254 pounds. So that's how much that I've lost since then. Now, this is the sort of information that I am able to get from MyFitnessPal, and this looks at the actual last week, where generally I would strive for a daily food average of less than 1,800 calories. And this is where I want to remind you, you should always consult your doctor or medical provider if you're considering engaging in any sort of health, fitness, or weight loss program. But in the last week, I decided that I was going to have a new goal of an average of 1,980 calories for the week. I actually came in at 1,960, and I had many restaurant meals in the last week. So for me, that's like cause for confetti and trumpets and horns.
Yes.
This lets me look at my nutrition for the week. Because I'm so precise, by the way, MyFitnessPal lets you monitor scan barcodes. There's all sorts of different ways. You can look up precise foods in some of your favorite restaurants, or you can come up with close proximity estimates. So I had 42% carbs in the last week, 35% fat, and 23% protein. That's not one of my better weeks, but it was a new week where I ate out a lot. I can get an actual breakdown of where I might be discouraged. So I'm sure that Liz is noticing the sodium level at the bottom of this slide, which would be attributable to the amount of restaurant food that I was eating. I wouldn't see that if it was a week of intense home prepped meals. I wouldn't have that sodium level, which in and of itself would explain the 0.8 pound weight gain in the last week. So I probably haven't gained weight in the last week. This is just the second part of that slide because it was too big on my phone to take the screenshot. So this morning I weighed in at 188.8. I've been up since 4:30. I weighed in at 5:02 a.m. And my BMI is 23.6. But the highest weight I found in my SMART scale was May 19th, 2017.
It froze.
Where,
there you are.
The highest, thank you. The highest weight I found in my SMART scale was 242, the highest BMI with 30.2%. But I know that I've had a higher BMI. So since the highest starting weight in all of my FitnessPal, I am down 66 pounds.
Jaw dropping.
So what would you like to add to anything I've just shared?
Well, one thing that I hope your viewers and your listeners can see with all of that data is that weight loss is not linear, right? And that's where we struggle usually, is just if you have a week where you gain weight, most people kind of give up. If you have a period of time, and you've had a lot of those throughout these past couple of years where you weren't losing weight all the time, you probably gained weight, and it's those critical moments where you need to lean in on those external things, your higher power, your support, your team that you mentioned, because it can be tough to get through those. So weight loss is not linear. It doesn't go down. There's a lot of this, and that graph, guys, that is like real, true information. He'd send me those every week so we can take a look and see. And also to that point though, too, when you do have people on your team, or something that I really value is sometimes I had to kind of remind you how far you had come, right? Because you're very particular with your entry of your data, which has served you really well. And sometimes it would be frustrating if the results weren't where you thought they should be, but also having those moments where you said, okay, well, look at 3 months back. You've lost 10 pounds in 3 months. So what that you haven't lost a pound in the last 3 weeks, right?
Well, and one of the things that I learned, I've learned is I was only weighing myself once a week, but then I found that got in my way because I had the data to know that really the week to week weight wasn't relevant. It was the month to month weight that was more relevant. So even though I weighed in this morning, I'm not planning on weighing myself again until June 1st, like 5 weeks from now. I don't need to weigh myself. I also would like to add that now that the pandemic is under control, I'm double vaccinated, I feel comfortable going to a physical therapist. So I will be having a consult with a physical therapist in early May. And something that I really should mention is that I have walked a mile every day for the last 55 days. Because I have trauma historically in my childhood around exercise, because I was bullied, because physical education was one of the most traumatic environments I ever experienced, I do have emotional issues to overcome in my approach to exercise. I needed to come to a place where I was choosing to do it for myself and not feel like I was doing it for someone else. And frankly, all of this I've done for myself. But I came to a place where I was ready to do it, and I'm doing it, and I love it, and it's more of a meditation than a walk, even though it's a walk, and it's become very powerful. I see the physical therapist in early May. I do have to have a scheduled surgery a couple of weeks later that will impact my ability to do certain things for a period of time. But I'm guessing that by August, I'll be in a situation where I will have worked significantly with a physical therapist, that I won't have any limitations on my exercise, and will be completely immersed into more of it.
Lovely. Yeah, I there we had a few conversations over the past couple of years. There was moments where I was like, well, you know, Howard, I know you're not going to want to hear this from me. I know what we've talked about with your past. I was like, what do you think about getting exercise, you know, starting doing? There's many times you're like, nope, not ready yet. Nope. But that's important to know that for yourself, right? So there's so many weight loss experts and so many influencers and things out there that'll tell you, well, you have to do this, you have to do it this way, and you shouldn't be influenced by those people because they're not meeting you where you are, right? And I hope that that's something that you've experienced, Nick, is you came to walk. You would have never walked 55 days in a row this time last year because I told you to do it, right?
No,
So
I wouldn't have.
that was so important for you, and you're seeing the benefit, and knowing you had your muscle issue, which is why you're going to another professional physical therapy that can show you how to do it properly to when you're ready. So I'm super impressed. You're not just walking though. You got weights with you.
Yeah, I started with simple 1 kilogram weights just to carry them, and now I've actually upgraded to 4-pound weights. They're really nothing, but I just know by just having them in my hand that it's doing a little bit.
Sure.
So you know how every meal needs a dessert.
Yeah.
Well, I've prepared a dessert for us that kind of completes everything we've talked about.
Okay.
That I'm going to play, but after that, we're going to come back and I'm going to ask Liz to talk about how my success is going to be challenging to other people. I want to say that Nick Wade says, awesome job on your weight loss, Nicholas. Thank you, Wade. Much appreciated. But my weight loss is going to be a threat to other people. And I didn't lose my weight for them, and I don't want to gain my weight back for them either. But with that said, Liz, I think you're going to love this one.
This is a surprise. I have no idea what he's about to show me, so I'm excited.
And here we have it. 8 400-calorie servings of fabulous homemade soup. I'm going to give myself a round of applause. And you.
Seriously, you should. You should. I mean, wow, what a walk down memory lane. And see, you were eating all that delicious food. I mean, there is no starvation required. No food off limit. I love that.
Yes, it's like, okay, there are people that have said to me, don't lose any more weight. And there are people that I bump into and they think, oh my God, he must be really sick, or he must be on drugs, or he might be anorexic, don't lose more weight. And one of the issues is I'm a third less of a person that I was. So they're just not used to seeing me at a healthy weight. A, but B, there's a whole other dynamic going on. What do you think about this sort of feedback that people will get about their bodies and their choices?
That's a really, it's a good question. It can be tough to answer. And I feel like a lot of people view other people's success with weight loss, and they tend to self-evaluate and compare, and they're almost threatened by it because there are so many people who desires to lose weight. Maybe they've tried and not succeeded. And so it's almost like a threat when somebody, and it's not a conscious threat, I don't think. I think it's a subconscious, and we'll just kind of say, oh, well, don't lose too much weight as a self-protective mechanism for themselves, because they're realizing maybe they should do it and they haven't done it the way you were successful. They don't realize that it took 2 years and you did it methodically and healthfully, supervised, and that you are healthy. So I would say that the threat of the weight loss can be just more of like an internal struggle that they're dealing with. Sometimes, not always, but that would be how I've seen it before play out.
Well, I would like to conclude by simply saying that there isn't an after. I didn't show you the before and the after. This is the during, this is the being, this is the now, this is the present, this is my way of living. But it's something I've been doing for years now. And it's something that I have been doing successfully as the world has opened up and I'm no longer trapped at home alone. I do know for a fact that I probably wouldn't have accomplished this if I lived with someone during the pandemic, because emotional eating and companionship eating, and it would have been there significantly. So, But I happened to achieve this during the pandemic. I don't know, so I can't compare it to what it would have been had I achieved it outside the pandemic, other than to know I had created significant results before the pandemic began.
Mhm.
And as a matter of fact, I didn't see you until um, I, I was away from you for several months.
Mhm.
And when you came back from maternity leave, I was the same weight that I was when I had last seen you. I had put on a few pounds, but I was able to immediately, and in a healthy way, take them off between the time I learned you were coming back from maternity leave to the time that I saw you.
Right.
So that was so I just had that conversation with myself out loud to realize, oh, I was doing this before the pandemic. I continued it during the pandemic, and now I'm continuing to continue it. What's different, though, is this is the first time in a long, long time that I am within, and have been for months, a healthy weight range that I feel is delightful, joyful, and sustainable.
Yeah. And I think you were able to, during the pandemic, when I was on my maternity leave, you had tools available. And really, that's my goal, is that you're not having to always be dependent on somebody. Like, I want to set you up for success and knowing when, when you need to reel it in, when you need to just be free, whatever it is. Like, you have those tools now where you can succeed on your own, and occasionally you'll do a check-in and need to just make sure everything is good still, and that's just fine. There's room for that. But that's been, I think, the key too, is just the tools that you have and the confidence you've gained in using those tools, that there is no end, right? So that's really good.
I'm going to play the beginning intro again with the before and the after pictures, just because I want people to see that comparison. And I'm going to come back to you, Liz, for a final word. Well, there you have it. Now people know how I did it, and they can do it for themselves, and there's no magic bullet. And even though there's challenging moments, using all the tools available to me, including the team and the acknowledgement of my inability to do it on my own for a variety of reasons, in the context of that, it's actually been pretty easy to do and to maintain.
That's awesome. Everyone's probably going to wonder, well, what was the secret, or how did you do it? And it's kind of a boring answer, wouldn't you say? It's
well, and there was no secret.
No secret.
We gave it all away. We gave it all away right here. There was no secret.
No secret. And I would say all it requires is you being in a place where you're ready to do something differently, that you're going to commit to doing it, and you're going to stick with it. Consistency. And that third piece is something that a lot of us, we like instant results. We like instant gratification. This is not instant. And it won't be. And if you go into it knowing it's going to take some time, set your expectation. I think you'll be a little bit more content with where your journey is going. So.
Well, my journey with you, we're going to go to every 2 weeks instead of every week, then ultimately once a month. And I frankly think I'll keep seeing you once a month as long as my insurance allows me to. But regardless of where our journey goes from now, the fact that you have been part of my journey has forever changed my life.
Well, likewise. I mean, I think I have learned a lot through this time with you too. And, a lot of us with degrees and stuff, right? We have the head knowledge, but sometimes we don't always trust ourselves either, and the advice we give or the guidance that we help with. So thank you for trusting me with that. And because you've taught me a lot as well about, trusting the process too. It's equally a learning process for me. And what I see too, and then we haven't pointed this out, we haven't brought it up, but you had blood work too. The stuff that you don't see, like the weight loss you see, but even the stuff inside your body you don't see, your blood work has been perfect too.
Yes, for months, and months and months.
Yeah. So there's just, it's just so cool to see that. And I'm blessed to have you as a client. So thank you.
Well, I'm blessed to have you as a client, a friend, and a Friday bestie, as we say.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for then, for now, and for what's ahead.
Yes. Love it. Thank you.
Thank you. Stay where you are. I'll speak with you briefly in just a minute.
Okay. Bye.
And I want to thank all of you for watching. I hope that this has been inspiring to you. And remember, if you want to practice any of this in your own life, please consult your medical provider first. And I will see you next time.
And I just can't get